Okay, here's a very important type of question. So often comes up, this one. In part A, we've got to solve the equation sec x equals 3, giving values of x. Spot that you're in radians, make sure you calculate it in the correct mode. To get started on sec x equals 3, you just have to remember what sec x means. It's 1 over one of the three basic trig equations. That's got to equal 3. So one of your standard 3 trig equations, this function here, make that the subject of the formula, get an ordinary kind of trig equation, either sine or cos or tan, equals, it'll be the reciprocal of 3 1/3, something equals 1/3. Use an inverse trig function and your favourite method of getting the second solution, whether that's a cast diagram or something else, get your two solutions in this range using the core 2 method. Re-entry point here. We've now got to look at this equation here and turn it into this form. This is our end point in a show that question. Here's our starting point. We need to compare this with the end point we want to get to, and we can see it's that term there we need to deal with, and there are 3 identities that link all the squared trig functions. You need to find the one with tan squared x in it, and tan squared x is going to be replaced by a bracket with something in it, and you can see that sec squared x appears in the answer. So express tan squared x in terms of sec squared x, set that equal to 2 sec x plus 2, and convincingly rearrange that into this form to get these 2 marks. And then in part C we've got another re-entry point. It says solve this equation, but of course we know that equation is really this one. So here's our starting point for part C. And we can recognise our starting point. You might want to write it as s squared minus 2s minus 3 equals 0, where s means sec x. So this is a quadratic, so you solve your quadratic, which gives you 2 values for sec x, and then you've got to find the x values. And by exam psychology, if they started you off in part A solving sec x equals 3, you'll be extremely surprised if one of these values isn't 3. So that will check your factorisation of the quadratic has gone correctly, and if you don't get that answer, then double and triple check your solving of the quadratic. So each of these potentially, here you're going to get, if it is 3, you're going to get your 2 answers from part A, and this could potentially give you 2 more answers. So follow the same method as part A to try and get those 2 answers.